Hey, what do you say we as a society stop this road to book burning? That we stop saying things like my friend Andrew Klavan. We have to play this clip from him in a little while. My friend Andrew Klavan yesterday put this clip out about the science is settled. And there's no need for discussion. All of this talk is stopping progress. And if you disagree, well, you gotta get on the train, or we'll boycott you, or we'll get you fired, or we'll destroy you some way or another. We'll cancel your speeches. We'll cancel everything about it. Excuse me? Since when has this been acceptable? I mean, I always learned that the blacklisting was a bad thing. That when we started looking and started calling even communists, when we started saying communists shouldn't ever be able to work, that was wrong. What are we doing now? We're basing things not on people's color. Well, I shouldn't even say that. We're being told now if you're a white male, you need to apologize. For what? For what? I've lived my life in the best way I possibly could. I'm not a hater. I've done everything I could to unite people. You may disagree with me, and you may think that speech is divisive, but I don't mean it that way. I don't hate you if we disagree. I have fought hard to bring people of different faiths together, even atheists, that we can all live together if we can agree on a few fundamental principles, and that is be decent. Don't steal, don't cheat, don't lie. Don't covet somebody's stuff. Don't covet somebody's wife. Be careful who your God is and who you serve. Your God might be the stock market. Be careful of that. That doesn't work out well. Be careful if your Christian God tells you to hate other people, because that's not God. Be careful if your Muslim God tells you to blow people up, because that's not God. God forgives. He does not forget. But God forgives. God comforts. God is a God of peace. God is a God of love. He is a God of standards. And if you don't want to live those standards, that's your choice. But don't tell me that I have to live by your law of no standards. Don't tell me that I can't say that standards mean something when you have empirical truth. We are living in a really upside-down country. Now, I don't know if I agree with David and Jason Benham. These guys seem to be good guys until you read about them. And when you read about them, they hate Muslims, they hate gays, they hate anybody who's different than them. And they had a show called Flip It Forward on HGTV that was supposed to air coming this fall. And a campaign was started against them. And what happened? Well, they were taken off the air. HGTV said, we don't want any of your hate around here. We thought we should be reasonable and talk to the guys. So David and Jason Benham are on with us now. Hello, guys. How are you?
Hey, Glenn. Thanks for having us.
Can you tell me, do you hate Muslims? How do you feel about Muslims?
Well, let me say this real quick. This is Jason. Just to start, after reading that article, my wife actually read it to me, but after reading it, I started hating myself. I thought, wow, I did not realize I hated Muslims. I didn't realize that I hated homosexuals. I didn't realize that I hated all of these people, and if I hate all these people, then I hate myself.
So, Jason, apparently the Post said your dad was yelling, Jesus hates Muslims, near the Ground Zero the mosque, right? Or something like that.
That is a lie.
That's what I figured.
Jason and I and our dad, we have never hated anyone. Jesus loves all people. And because Jesus lives in us, we love all people. And the way that there's a narrative that's been created to make Jason and I look like haters. And they couldn't use our words necessarily. They had to try and pull some of our dad's words, even when he didn't say the things that they said he said. They're just trying to create this narrative and make us haters. And you know what? It was actually very effective, and it worked.
Yeah, it did.
I will tell you that, I read the article yesterday, and, you guys come out looking like Westboro Baptist Church people.
Oh, And that's the funny thing is I remember as kids, my dad wrote a letter to, I guess it was this guy, Fred Phelps, whatever the crazy guy is out of Westboro.
Fred Phelps.
And rebuked him and said, "You are evil. You say you stand up for Jesus, but you're evil because you're so hateful toward people."
But here's the deal. I mean, my dad is my dad. He can be judged according to his own words. But David and I are grown men. We should be judged according to our words. Now, here's the thing. This is Jason. Hey, I'm the only innocent guy here. You know, my brother and my dad have said everything, and I'm getting pulled into this. So I've been teasing folks about that.
So how did this all come down with you guys? How did you get word that this campaign was getting started? Who started it? And what did HGTV say?
I'll take a couple of steps back even further. A production company came to us about 18 months ago and said, "We're looking at your company online, and you guys look like you would be great for reality TV. You interested?" And we were like, "Well, okay, I guess it sounds good." Multiple networks weighed in and wanted us. We actually received an offer from another large network, and then HG made us an offer. And we decided we're going to go with HGTV. So we chose them because of their family-friendly programming, and then HG did some research, background check. They scoured the Internet, and they saw my comments. And they said, "Okay, well, let's talk about this." Jason and I actually went.
And what were those comments? What were those?
Well, the one comment was about that judgment begins in the house of God, how we've allowed sex outside of marriage like adultery and pornography and homosexuality, and including the homosexual agenda that's devastating our nation. And that was really very difficult for them to understand. And I made a very clear distinction with HG. Look, I've said nothing about anyone as individuals. I have, however, identified an agenda. And I said there's a big difference there. So after we met in person with one of the executives, they realized, you know what, these guys have no ill intent. There's no hate in their heart. Let's make them an unprecedented offer. So they did. And we were starting the show, starting to film, and when they made an announcement at the upfronts in New York City, that's when the media firestorm started with several of these bloggers and other things saying that we were anti-this and anti-that. And they began to craft a narrative that a lot of other folks began to catch on to, and one small segment of culture started chiming in to HG's ears, and finally HG said, well, we have to make a business decision and move on. So that's really what happened.
I mean, there's a difference between Sharia law and saying that I have a different set of standards. For instance, I'm not a boycott guy. However, I'll never stay at the Beverly Hills Hotel, ever. Not that I'm, getting calls to stay there very often, but I'll never stay there because that is owned by the Sultan of Brunei, who has just said for adultery and homosexuality, he will now stone people to death.
That's all.
I'm sorry. That is
in this country.
Yeah, that is what are you doing? I won't spend a dime on anything that the Sultan of Brunei owns, because if you're saying homosexuality is wrong, that's your business. If you're saying homosexuality is wrong and we should kill you, stone you to death, or run you out of society, excuse me, I want no part of that. In fact, I stand in opposition of you.
It's also something you guys, you never said any of this stuff on HGTV. This wasn't part of the show, right? This is part of your personal life.
We were set to air in October of this year. We were 5 weeks into filming, and the difference between us and the Duck Dynasty guys, outside of the fact they have some crazy cool beards that we could never, we're not man enough to grow those, is that they had a huge following. And when this small segment of culture spoke to A&E then suspends Phil, but then the rest of culture in America, the rest of America spoke, and A&E listened.
Mm-hmm.
But the thing is that Jason and I didn't even get out of the batter's box. We were out.
That's typical of David's professional baseball career, as was mine. His Morris. He was out before he even got to bat. Yeah.
I know it was interesting.
We were out.
What you guys said about HGTV and going through, it was got to be a personally trying time, that you actually felt bad for the people at HGTV. Can you explain that?
We do. It's just like if you're sitting in fifth grade and you're in the lunch cafeteria and you see a big bully pushing somebody into a corner, it's not that person's fault. We felt like HG was pushed into a corner. Well, look, we know those folks over there, and they're great, heart of America type people, and they loved us, and we loved them, and we just felt that they were bullied into this. And they knew who we were. We had spent enough time with them. They knew who we were. There was no surprise to them about Jason and me. It's when the heat rose, they didn't have enough support for our show to make a solid business decision to keep us. We told them we understand it's business, not personal, with no harm. We love you guys, embrace you guys, and wish you the best.
I love that attitude. I mean, it's a great, strong attitude. It's a great perspective to have in a tough time. But isn't there a need for people in that position to take a stand for when they know you guys aren't haters? They're sitting here basically allowing you guys to be painted into this corner for what might be a good business decision, but also might be a terrible business decision for them. I feel like you do at some point need to hold these guys responsible to take a stand for what's right.
At some point, there has to be a network or some type of leadership in this country that's going to say, you know what, I'm not going to kowtow to this agenda.
Yeah.
I'm not going to kowtow to it. And that's all it takes. Everybody knows what happens with bullies. When bullies get confronted, they generally tuck tail and run. And I'm not saying that's what will happen here, but somebody's got to take the lead here, and I'm not going to push that on HGTV, although it would be nice. But, what Jason and I regret is that America's not going to see a show that we really believed in with our wives. We have 9 kids between the two of us, and we compete as CrossFitters, and there was some really good family-friendly programming that embraced a lot of fatherly moments. And, hey, how about some fatherhood in this country? We need this. It embraces entrepreneurship and hard work and loving your wife and being faithful. And, I mean, this is what this program was about, transforming houses at the same time. I just wish that we had an opportunity to communicate that.
Well, I will tell you this, David and Jason. I don't know you guys, and my only brush against you is the interview or the piece that I read about you yesterday, which makes you sound like the Westboro Baptist Church, and then this conversation today, which makes you sound like good Christians that I would be proud to call friends. And I will tell you, the network that should and does take a stand and will take a stand is the Blaze, and we are not afraid of bullies, and I don't care if we lose absolutely everything. We don't give a flying crap. We will stand because we believe we're supposed to be who we are, and that is love other people, accept other people's differences, stand for the truth, stand for families, stand for principles and values, and part of that principle and value is to be inclusive. I don't remember any teaching from Jesus Christ where he said, go get them. I don't remember him ever saying, make sure they never work again. I don't remember any of those teachings ever like that. Here's the problem.
You see, Jesus carried the perfect balance when the woman caught in adultery was thrown before him, and all of those evil men that wanted to stone her, he looks at them and says, you without sin cast the first stone. So the haters he sent away. But then he lovingly looked at the woman and he said, go and sin no more. That is so important for us, is that there is a balance of standards and truth and morality, and yet at the same time, such an incredible love for people. And this is what Jesus is all about, and that's what got Jason and I in trouble, and now we're showless.
How do you feel about doing a house flipping show with a budget of $11 annually? We can provide that opportunity to you.
I can get you Home Depot certificates. I mean, probably not very many, but I can get you some certificates. David and Jason, just based on our conversation, I wish I was in a position to where I could offer you a space. Of course, if you have anybody who has the money to produce your show, we'll air your show.
Thank you very much.
I appreciate, and I think courage is contagious. I really do. And I think people are going to start standing more and more, and they're going to see people like you that leave and then don't have hate in their hearts. It's very easy. It would have been very easy and understandable for you to come on and say, you know what, and I think you should take HGTV, and you don't. And you're standing there and saying, hey, it was their decision. I feel bad for them, but everything's going to work out. And if this means we lost our show, it means that we lost our show. We're not changing who we are. And I respect you for that.
Yeah.
Well, thank you. when my brother and I were 11 years old, we were walking down the road, and a bully came out of the neighborhood and threatened to fight both of us. And I sat there and watched my brother back down and start to tremble. And so, and there was that fear in my heart as well. We know the inner coward that's inside of us. So when we're in a relationship and then someone else doesn't take a stand, we don't look at them and condemn them because we know what it feels like. We've been there, and it's tough, and we needed somebody to stick up for us at that moment. And so that's why David and I, we want to stick up for HGTV right now. And anybody else out there that that believes that Jesus is the way and that Christianity is a good thing and that God is real, and that we don't have to be scared about that will cause us to love people, build great businesses, do incredible radio shows, and all of that.
Wow, just incredible.
Can I take? You heard it right here. Just listen to the awesome hate. I will tell you that. You know what? I mean, you guys are you're good men, and from what I know of you, again, I mean, geez, we could get off and we could find that you've killed a family of 6. We have no idea, but from what you're saying here, you know what you sounded like? This sounds exactly like Captain America. And that movie has been embraced by all of America because he's saying, it won't change me. And even if I get power, I have this power because I know what it's like to be picked on. I'm tired of bullies. And America used to really not embrace bullies. And we are now being co-opted by bullies. Bullies are everywhere in our society, and we are all starting to act like collective bullies, and it's got to stop.
Well, and we're people often I hear this all over Facebook and Twitter right now, which ours have just gotten out of control at this point. But they're saying we want leaders, and I say, men don't follow leaders, men follow courage, and it's time for men and women to just courageously take a stand. And to do it in a loving way, but to do it unflinchingly and say, you know what, I'm not kowtowing. And is that not what our founding fathers did?
Yes, it is. And David and Jason, I'd love to have you guys here next week if possible. I'd love to talk to you and have you on television and continue our conversation if we can put you on hold and we'll get some information from you. But that's the kind of people that we're looking for, I think, with our